All right, look, everybody. I got a bunch of soldiers. I got a bunch of grizzly soldiers. I got a bunch of American soldiers buried in the cemetery, friends. Friends, this right here is one of my privates, friends. This is Private William J. Mealy. And he was with Company Bravo, 1st Florida Cow-Calf, friends. That's the Confederate States Army. And the man was born February 4th, 1832. And he lived to be an older guy. Oh, my goodness, friends. The man was like 90 years old. Amazing. And look over here. I got another private. Friends. He served in the Confederate States Army, friends. We need to get out here and clean this mess up, friends. And friends, over yonder, I got another private. Friends, all the privates. You know, y'all want to make the war about the slaves. None of these men owned slaves. They're privates. We got to get this stinking mess cleaned up, friends. Friends, I got another soldier over here. This man was a 2nd lieutenant. He was probably in charge of the privates, friends. That's 2nd Lieutenant Milton Johnson. The man was from Company Bravo, 1st Florida, the Florida Cow. The Calf, friends. That's the Confederate States Army. Friends, I spent a lot of time in the cemetery last year, friends. And I came back around the time Mr. Charlie Kirk was murdered by these perverted Marxist liberals. And friends, I got the cemetery all squared away. But friends, I was like four months ago. Friends, I need you out here. You just take the initiative yourself, friends. You just come on out here. I already got the permission from the folks in the church. And they're probably upset that I hadn't been out here. But I'm literally trying to save the stinking world, friends. Friends, we got to come out here. If we get the spray, friends, donate me a couple bucks, friends. Friends, if I get $200, I'll spray this, and we'll just do it once a month, friends. And then all the families will be taken care of. And look, friends, the church over there, we got to get the weed whacker. Friends, we got to get the weed whacker up against the church. Friends, I met the deacon, and these folks are old. Because all y'all are perverted and girly, and you don't want to get out here and get in the Lord's Son and do some righteousness. I get it, friends, I get it. I used to be perverted and girly like you too. But then the Lord spoke to me. And then the Lord picked me. And then I said, Lord Jesus, I need to be humble. I need to be humble more, Jesus. Help me, Lord. Look, friends, I got another private. Friends, how come all the privates are in these cemeteries and they don't get all the monuments like the perverted guy, Frank Strum, the previous Hillsborough County Consumer Services and Veterans Services? Friends, I got Vietnam, Korean soldiers out here. There's a tech sergeant, friends. Friends, there's a little child. I can't stand this stuff, friends, but it's all in the Lord's plan. They're all up in heaven with Jesus. There's a Vietnam guy over there, friends. Friends, I was out here all breakfast, lunch, and dinner last summer, friends. And then the Lord told me I had to go away and I had to get on to the next mission. So look, friends, I need you butt out here. You just get out here and you just get the job done. And then you just send me a text when it's done. Then I'll say, Roger that, soldier. I'll see you in the field.